All right. We are excited to be back here with another podcast. I'm happy to be here with Sue Kuehl Pederson. I can do this, I swear, who's running for the office of Commissioner of Public Lands. And we are excited to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Richard. I'm happy to join you.
Yeah. So how are things going? How's the campaign
Oh,
rolling
oh, it's,
along?
it's very busy with the state convention coming up in a week, and things are hopping.
Yeah. Now, real quick, did you request an endorsement? Are you trying to seek the endorsement of the WSRP at the convention, or?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good.
I may have been the first candidate way back in September. I applied for that endorsement.
Perfect, perfect. All right. Well, that's going to be exciting. Yeah, we've been talking about the convention a lot on this podcast, so
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you there. All right. So I'll start with the first question because I think a lot of people don't know. What does the Commissioner of Public Lands do?
Well, that is a very good question, and you're right. Most people are not aware. The position was created in our 1889 Constitution for Washington State. It's it's a it's a job that recognizes the rich natural resources we have in Washington, and this person is supposed to manage those resources and public lands, mainly with an eye for earning revenues off of timber, other resources, grazing. It's it's designed to earn revenues for our schools and other public institutions like hospitals or libraries. That's
Okay.
what it is in the Constitution of Washington.
Okay. Right. So why is it so important that we get the right person in there?
Well, I view this position as one of the most important functions in Washington because uh, it it deals with natural resources. It deals with things like land and water and air, even air. It deals with the things we need to stay alive.
Hmm.
Uh, food, it's agriculture, it's timber. If we have a housing shortage, why aren't we managing our forests for timber production? That earns revenues for the state as well. It I grew up in Washington next to a national forest, Gifford Pinchot. I grew up at a salmon hatchery. My friends were all the children of loggers, and I grew up with this sense of what stewardship looks like. We've really come a long ways down the wrong road here, in my opinion. We've just let the lands get so messed up that they burn. They burn, and they're very difficult to put out the fires. We really need to get back to very practical land management. And I have a background in natural resources. I've lived my life taking care of natural resources like fisheries, forests, habitat, and then energy. So I feel very well qualified to understand not only the importance of these resources, but also I understand the interaction between them. And I've spent my whole professional life studying and managing natural resources. I'm a
Yeah.
scientist.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's great. So you are, as far as I know, you are the only candidate with a scientific background that's running for this office. And we have just come from, I believe, an attorney from running the office. And I don't think we've had anyone in the office that has any background in how to manage land. And part of the job, as you said, is land management. And that would be hopefully making it harder for forest fires to spread
Yeah.
nonstop, correct? Yeah. So,
For,
let's,
for one thing, that's the
yeah.
most obvious thing. Yeah.
So when it comes to that, when you take office, what are you going to push to accomplish in that office on day one?
It might take more than one day, but
Yeah.
I want to focus. Well, first of all, I'm a Republican because I prefer limited government. I
Mhm.
feel the environmental interests have really gone too far with regulations and really trying to put a thumb on the scale for control of property rights, water rights. I mean, I believe in freedom, and I also believe that the people, we the people in Washington, are pretty smart, and we've learned a lot of lessons along the way. We don't pollute the way we used to. I mean, bodies of water used to catch on fire because they had too much oil in the streams or the rivers. I believe in uh, individual responsibility. I think that people know how to take care of the lands. We are going to get on a stewardship path and we'll all take care of our lands together. That's what I want to achieve. I also think we have duplicative and unnecessarily multiple agencies that need to coordinate better on who does what, because citizens are just faced with so many regulations and requirements. It takes way too long for people to get the permission from the government on what they want to do on their own land. I think we've gone
No.
too far.
Yeah, no, we've definitely. I know people who have had issues here in Island County just trying to build something on their own land, and it is just a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely for you that definitely with you on regulations being too much. So,
Mhm.
um, but right now that office does have a little bit more power than maybe they need to, and we do have a lot of regulations. At the very least, they could try and do it right. So I imagine that you'll at least try and make sure that we are at least taking care of our forests and trying to remove some of the excess brush so that we don't have massive fires that basically choke us out every year.
Yeah, those catastrophic fires are the red flag that people are paying attention to, and that's a good thing. I That's the reason I ran for this race in 2020. I was just shocked by what I was seeing. I call them white smoke fires. I had never seen a white smoke fire in my life growing up in Washington, but in 2014, we had the first one that I noticed, and I learned more about it. It's because we've just let our forests and grazing lands, we've just let them go, hoping that nature would take over and we'd have a natural environment in Washington, but that's not what happened. It's because we were managing our lands for forest production and grazing, and then we stopped. Mother Nature has a hard time with that because if Mother Nature starts right from the get go, there's a process. It's called uh, forest procession. I think I have that name wrong.
Forest.
Uh, delete
Yeah,
that part, please.
it's all right. No, but there's a process in which case
Well, forest I'm sorry, it's forest succession.
that's
So
it. Yeah.
so that process means if you start with a landscape like Mount St. Helens after it blew, it's just devastation. There's nothing there. Then Mother Nature comes in. First, you see little blades of grass growing, and I observe this. I went up to the mountain, annually. First, there's little blades of grass, and then there's wildflowers and larger, plants, shrubs, onto deciduous trees later. And then when the climax species, which for us would be western red cedar, hemlock, and Doug fir, which are the primary lumber trees that we used to harvest. By the time those are taking hold, they have shade all around the landscape, and those seeds thrive in the sunny spots, which gives them enough room to grow. The shade determines how much space they get for the larger species. So Mother Nature would spread out the trees farther than the Forest Service did when they replanted clear cuts.
Mhm.
So we're we're missing a step. We didn't consider how much space each tree would have.
So you're saying our interference to try and make things better actually made things worse. That
Yes,
sounds like the story of
yes,
our
that's
life.
a good statement.
That is a cautionary tale for all of government.
The king
So All right. So my other question for you now is more political. So I know you're going to be going to the convention, requesting the endorsement. So what's your plan for state victory? The first thing you got to do is win the primary. You have a
Right.
primary opponent, and then
Yeah.
off to the general. So what's the plan to win the primary? I know the Island County Republican Party's already endorsed you unanimously.
Oh,
So
thank you.
yeah,
I appreciate that. Well, it's kind of a moving target. There were quite a large number of Democrats in this race, five or six. It's changing all the time. They seem to be winnowing down their candidates. So the fewer Democrats there are, the more difficult it is, of course, for a Republican. So
mhm.
I it's all kind of in motion. I can't really predict what we'll have at the time the primary occurs. Ideally, we might have two Republicans and more Democrats, but I don't know if that's going to happen on the Democrat side. Um, so I'm just going to emphasize my biological scientific background. That's what sets me apart hugely from career politicians. So,
Right.
you know,
It's like
people are
everyone else running, none of them have a scientific background. Like I guarantee you, if I was to have a conversation with one of them, or even Hillary Franz, we would not be talking about Douglas firs. We would
no.
not be talking about anything scientific having to do with actual forest management. We'd be talking about something political, and it's not a political office. This is a
Oh,
maintenance office.
thank you for saying that. Thank
Yeah.
you, Richard.
Um,
It has been presented as strictly political,
yeah.
and
And
I couldn't disagree with that more. This is about the land and the air and the water, the requirements we all have to stay alive.
right.
This is not a human constructed uh, focus. It's it's basically nature and our resources, which in the past were managed beautifully in Washington, and now they're burning, literally burning up.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that's because we went away from electing the right person to the job, and we got a little bit too political. We've done that with a couple of.
mm,
So there's a couple of offices where I think politics really should not be the main focus. One is the Office of Attorney General. The other one is Secretary of State. The other one is Treasurer, and then the other one is Office of the Commissioner of Public Land.
yeah.
Um, it's either you did the job right or you didn't. There's nothing political about it. So so I just I think it's important that we actually start getting back to electing the right person for the job. And you, by default, are the only one with a scientific background at all. So I think you are definitely the best candidate for the job. Um,
Well, thank you. I think
you know,
people will need to get used to the fact that I am not a politician. I don't speak like one. I don't dress like one. I don't behave like one. I'm a biologist, and I just want to find the truth and solve problems collaboratively, but it's going to require me to throw out some theories and collaborate on solutions. It's not the usual, you know, control the population. It's not like that.
all
So,
right. So, well, I'm excited. So, for people who want to help you get elected, what can we do to help your campaign? Where's your website? How can we donate? All that stuff.
oh, I would so appreciate donations. I got a slow start because I did not feel comfortable asking people for money when we're in this horrible economy right now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I thought that the vetting process for the Republicans was going to happen months ago. So I've put off asking for money until now. I desperately need it because I think that it was not announced before, but now I think fundraising is going to be a huge factor in the vetting process at the state convention. I I am able. Well, I ran for this office in 2020. I got 1.68 million votes. That's huge and
Mhm.
humbling to me. I spent 1/10 of the amount that my opponent spent, and I'm willing to do all the work. I operate on a shoestring, and I do a lot of work on my own. So, I'm at the point, though, where I really need to ask for funds, And my website is citizens four, that's a number four, Sue.com. If you go to my website, there's a donate button, but also you can find out a lot more about me and my professional background, what I feel qualifies me very well for this job.
Oh,
So I
perfect.
appreciate
Well, thank you so much, Sue. And once again, that website was citizens for the number four, Sue, SUE.com, correct?
that's right. Thank you, Richard.
All right. Well, we need your help, people. We need to get an actual scientist in the Office of Commissioner of Public Lands so that we can fix our public lands. So please
Yes.
go to citizensforsue.com and donate what you can. Thank you so much. And great talking to you, Sue.
Oh, you too, Richard. Thanks so much.
Thank you.